Hi, we're Nia and Marianne from Seren Health Coaching. We are metabolic health coaches who are passionate about good metabolic health for everyone. We also love to chat about all things health and to share as much information as we can with people who want to make changes to their lifestyle but aren't quite sure where to start. We're going to release a new episode every Friday where we talk about a different aspect of health. So do subscribe and let us know what you think. We'd also love to know what you're interested in too. So if there's something that you'd like us to have a chat about, do send us a message and we'll do our best to cover it soon.
Hi, Nia.
Hello, how are you doing today?
I'm all right.
Good. We've got quite an interesting topic today, haven't we?
Yeah, I think so. I did a little dive. It was like diving in sort of a pond with a lot of reeds because it was quite hard to simplify what I found. But what we're
Okay.
talking about is red light therapy, or they sometimes called LED face masks. And we're
Yeah.
particularly just talking about the commercial face mask because they've got incredibly topical, as you know.
Yeah, they're everywhere, aren't they? All these
Yeah.
people on social media with their little
Yes.
masks on. They go to,
Yes.
like, they sit down on the sofa with their, quite frankly, quite unnerving, like face masks, and it sort of glows red, and I think, "What are you doing, and is it
Yeah.
actually beneficial?" So
So
what is it
it's
what
yeah. Okay. So interestingly, I said to my husband this morning, I'm talking about LED face masks, and he says, "Oh yes, I've seen those." So I was
oh, so
sort of
even he's
interested
seen them.
in the fact that everyone is seeing them.
Mm,
Everyone will be saying, "Well, what am I missing here? What
yeah.
are these for?" So this is therapy in a
Mm,
handheld device which targets a particular area of your body, okay?
okay.
So it's to do with your face. So they've been used in the past. Various devices have been
Mm.
used for things like muscular pain in athletes, increasing healing after injuries.
Yes, I've
There's
heard about it for the
Yeah.
healing
Yes.
benefits potentially, and for, like, muscular pain, and there's things like
Yes.
shockwave therapy, isn't there, that physiotherapists often
Yes, which is
use.
slightly different to
Slightly
this.
different, but this is the
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, that
like
area.
that kind of
Yeah,
area I've definitely heard of, but this is kind of different, isn't it? This is like
yeah.
anti-aging?
Yes, and that's the point. So, what's
Okay.
been harnessed by clever people who sell devices in the wellness industry, they've
Mhm.
harnessed the fact that there is some science behind red light therapy.
Okay.
Um, but now, how well this is harnessed in a device that doesn't cost you very much. We looked them up, didn't we? The cheapest you can buy, I've seen, is 40 quid actually,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
most expensive is 3,000. And and sort of
Three
what's the
thou
difference? Right. So
£3,000?
yes, but
Wowzers.
if you're going to not age, that's not much, is it, to pay? I don't know. Anyway,
I do you know, I'm not that worried about aging. Maybe it's
no,
just me.
why are you not that worried? Golly Moses. I mean, the wellness industry, when you think about it, did make me think about the sort of mission.
Mm,
And it is often about looks.
mm,
I know that we are very sort of focused on function, but in many ways, there's a combination there, isn't there, of looks and
mm.
function. So when you think about being fit and exercise, it is about how you look, how you carry yourself. And of course, it's also about how you function. But
Yeah.
many people will be focused on the look.
Mm,
And the same in weight loss
mhm.
or weight management, that in many ways we're so veneered, aren't we? That we sort of focus on what we look like and not actually what goes on.
On the inside.
Exactly. So
Which is
that's sort of
analogy for more than one thing, isn't it?
yes, exactly. You
Okay.
okay, but primarily we're talking about the masks, but they're
Yeah.
also used in like sunbeds almost in dermatology clinics, and this goes a long way
Yeah,
back. This
so
is not
Puva
new.
for things like, psoriasis, isn't it?
Yes, exactly.
Treatment.
So
Yeah.
this goes a long way back. This isn't new.
Mhm.
And in clinical settings, they also use different color lights for different therapies, which
Ooh,
is quite interesting.
yeah.
I've learned quite a few things. They tend to use blue light, for instance, which tends to be more antibacterial, but we'll talk about that in a
Oh,
minute.
yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, cool. So there's some evidence for light therapy,
Oh, yeah,
and this is
definitely.
almost like being piggybacked onto in
Yes.
order to
Okay.
provide a
Yeah.
cosmetic, and this is a cosmetic anti-aging effect. And it's
Yes.
a bit also like piggybacking onto the collagen argument, which we must talk about someday
Yes,
because that's a
collagen.
big
Golly,
thing,
that's
isn't
a
it?
can of worms as well. I mean, what's not to like about this? When I listened to a few podcasts, and I realized just how big this area is.
Mm,
There are people in the spin-off of the red light face mask,
mm,
and they talk about a potential for preventing health in much bigger ways. I heard somebody talking about the fact that light therapy can be used in plaques in arteries
what to like reduce cholesterol.
to melt them. And I mean,
And
in very big ways, this is.
okay, I have a question. How do you get the light into the artery?
Well, that Actually, this is a future use of.
Okay, that's
So
for
I can
someone to think
imagine
about.
this technology is not going to go away. Let me tell you, there is
Okay.
potential for dissolving plaques in your arteries and helping to rejuvenate your brain. Who knew?
Oh, my
Anyway,
brain could be doing with some of that. Okay, all
imagine.
right.
I sort of imagine in the world in the future that there's this. You'll have a sauna, right, in your house. You'll
Yeah,
also have a cold water therapy thing before that, and
yeah,
then you'll go and have your coffee.
yeah.
Maybe it won't be coffee then,
No, I can't
in
get rid of
in
coffee
this red light box,
in a red
and
light box.
you won't have to go outside at all, basically. So you'll
How
just be
depressing.
sitting there, and it'll prevent all sorts of really big ills, but it'll also make you look fab for longer,
Ooh.
and because it'll give you all that elasticity of your skin, and it'll plump up your collagen.
But
I
if you never
mean,
leave the house, who cares what you look
I
like?
mean, what's not to like though, Nia? Yeah, but you'll be on a Zoom meeting and you want to look good, don't you?
Well, there's filters
Anyway,
for that. Anyway, I'm not worried about that. Okay, I'm being a bit cynical,
of
but
course you
okay.
are.
Did you open
Yes.
a can of worms? Sorry, I can't help it. I mean, look,
Oh, yeah.
I look at it on social media and I think, firstly, I think I'm trying not to be rude here, but I just think, okay, that looks really weird.
Mm.
I'm not the kind of person that is going to sit on my sofa in the evening with a red light mask on. Perhaps I should be more like that, but I don't think it's ever going to be me. My brain goes, okay, I can see loads of issues with this. Like, what happens
Yeah.
to your skin?
Yeah.
Is there a potentially awful effect? Will you become
Look.
more sensitive? Does it affect
Yeah.
the thickness or the thinness of your
Yeah.
skin? What
Yeah. Yeah.
about your eyes? What about, are we going to find out that this causes more skin cancer? Are we going to find
Yes.
that this
Yes.
has benefits or has
Yeah.
proportional disadvantages on brain activity? I mean, I've got loads of questions.
I know. The thing about you, and you'll be more skeptical at 40 than maybe I would be at my age,
Yeah.
because I have more vested interest, or do I? Actually, I don't really care about wrinkles, but I mean, lots of people my age do. So I can
Yeah.
see at 40 you'd be looking at this and thinking, golly, that's not for me. But I'll tell you what, maybe at 70, you'll want that booth. I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
Okay.
okay, look, I'll say this. I do put moisturizer on my face and I do use an eye cream.
An eye cream, there you go. So what's
Yeah.
the evidence for eye creams,
Well,
Nick?
not because I want to stop aging, but just sometimes my eyes are a bit puffy, so I want something to cool them down. But that's probably based on, being
Yeah,
a really
where's the evidence? I'd like to
just
look at that.
yeah, well, exactly.
I don't use an eye cream. That's maybe why I look like I do. Who knows?
But I don't know. I feel like an eye cream is safer than a infrared light therapy. But anyway, come on, let's go. What
Okay, so you're more worried about a potential harm rather than what good it could do. But
yeah.
if you're a punter out there buying an LED mask, you will be vulnerable in a sense because you're looking for the good effects, not the bad effects. I mean, you're a cynic by nature. You're also a scientist, aren't you? So you'll be thinking, yeah, 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 all that's fine, but
It's all
where's the
great, but is it gonna
evidence?
harm you? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And the other thing I noticed about these podcasts is I'm pretty sure they're sponsored by people who make LED masks,
Well, how
but
interesting.
I couldn't find the actual evidence for that. So that was a bit tricky.
See, you're just as cynical as I am.
I am a bit. And the other thing is that when you dive a bit into this, it's really hard to evaluate any real data because you can't compare like for like. As one dermatologist said, interestingly, they've never done half face studies where they put the mask on half your face and then they go, "Oh yes, look at the difference." So the trouble is the evidence is pretty tricky to get. Okay, but that doesn't mean it's not there. Okay.
Okay. All right. Come on then. What is the science? So, what is the therapeutic thing with these lights? What's it
Right.
called?
Okay. So the therapeutic process is known as photobiomodulation. I
Ooh,
mean,
that's a big word.
that's good, isn't it? It's basically using photons to alter biological activity in the skin. And this is and that will depend how far that light penetrates. But this is
Okay.
a process that's gone on since forever. I mean, we are born to be in the light
Well, yeah, because
some of the time.
we have
Yeah.
to absorb vitamin D from sunlight, and there's no doubt that if you don't go outside,
Yeah, what happens to you if you live in a cave forever?
yeah, there are we have to live
I
outside in
presume
the
you
light.
can, but you potentially wouldn't have any bones, would you?
Well, I think it would be quite tricky, wouldn't it? Depends
I think
how.
you'd
I mean,
be, yeah,
you'd
you'd
have
be
to
a
go
little
outside to catch something to eat,
stumpy.
wouldn't you? Yeah. I mean, so obviously skin is permeable, we know that. Skin is
Yes,
permeable
yes,
to light and it's permeable to moisture and it's permeable to
yeah,
moisturizing cream. So all of these things, that's okay. So fair enough. So all light light's a spectrum, isn't it? So
yeah,
some
yeah,
different types of light will come through at different levels. So
yes.
what's the thing about the red?
Well, the red light tends to penetrate more. That's as simple as that. Okay,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
potentially someone's seen the gap here that if you could make something with red light, that
It
it's got
goes further.
potential to go further. And the idea that is the different colors do different things, but red light's the anti-aging thing, okay?
Okay.
And that's
Hang on. I got
because
another question.
yeah,
Sorry, very quickly.
yeah,
So, red light, yes, can penetrate through the skin.
yeah.
But what if your skin is a different color? Because we know, don't we, that people with different amounts of melanin in their skin, so you go from like Caucasian through Asian
Yeah,
through to black to
I
black
have
skin.
I have no answer to that because A, it didn't strike me when I was looking this up, but B, I see no reference to it at all.
Interesting. So I would
So
be
we
also
need to find
interested
out
in,
and come back with that,
yeah, like
actually.
what would happen if you had
Yeah, if
darker
you
skin?
had very dark skin. Do you know? I don't know. Does the light penetrate at the same level?
Because we know, don't we, that in hotter countries where people have darker skin, because it gives them an element of protection from the sun, and that's the point because of their melanin.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, sorry. Carry on.
So go back to red light. Potentially, red light stimulates the mitochondria,
Ooh.
which are at a cellular level, right? And these are those little,
Powerhouses of the cell, as we
yeah, the
learnt in GCSE
batteries.
biology.
They're sort of the batteries of the cell, aren't they?
Mm.
And they can potentially help recharge these. A bit like if you had a good night's sleep and a
Mm.
decent breakfast,
Mm-hmm.
this would give you the same sort of recharge. I'm not sure why you can't just do the night's sleep and the breakfast, but anyway, the red light's sort of an easy way to do it on the couch, isn't
Much
it?
easier to sit on the sofa with a red mask on.
And a dermatologist I listen to is fairly convinced of the science of this, except that you don't know how far that red light mask you've bought is penetrating. So it does need to penetrate to cells to do this
Mm.
rejuvenation. But that's where the red light comes from.
Okay.
So red's got a longer wavelength, as we said, get below the skin, and it's used in skin rejuvenation, collagen production, and sometimes pain relief too.
Mm.
Blue light's got a shorter wavelength, and they sometimes use it for skin things. It's particularly antibacterial, so
Mm.
they sometimes use it in acne. Not necessarily for scarring or lumps and things, but more for the bacterial sort of causes of acne. So it targets and
Okay.
kills bacteria.
Okay.
Green, they sometimes use, and you don't see this commercially, I'm just giving you the different colors. And they use sometimes to treat hyperpigmentation and sunspots. I would need a lot of green, I can tell you. The yellow can be used to help with sun sensitivity, apparently, but also mood. Who knew that? and
Okay.
because it penetrates more than the blue. Orange
Is that why we're
is
happier when we're in the sun? Because the sun's
yes,
yellow.
isn't that funny? You can just go
Yeah.
outside, but there you go.
It's the answer to life. Just go
Go
outside, for goodness
outside, have a
sake.
walk even, golly. Orange is used in appetite stimulation. I've never seen this, and I'm not sure this is
No,
ever applied. And
no.
energy levels,
It's never a problem with
infrared
me.
and near infrared. So there's also something called near infrared, which isn't red at all. It's not a color.
Okay.
That can be used in muscle health, pain relief, and
Yeah.
penetrates deepest into the body. A
Okay.
red and blue combo might work for acne, so it's anti-inflammatory plus antibacterial.
Okay.
There's no end to the
To their good effects.
possibilities.
Golly. Okay. So
Yes. Okay.
there is some interesting science around this, I
Yeah,
see.
yeah, there is some
Okay.
interesting science.
So what's happened is basically
Yeah.
we are piggybacking off things that professional
Yes.
dermatologists use in their practice to
Yes.
treat skin problems and disease.
Yeah.
And they have some clever marketing peeps have said, oh, yay, we can piggyback on this and say, this is good
Exactly.
for anti aging. Let's all use it at home and we'll all plug
Yes.
in each night and charge our skin.
I mean, that's sort of in a nutshell. And I listened to a dermatologist talking about light therapy in general. And of
Mm,
course, as you say, there's definitely evidence and benefits. But as he was saying, and happened to be a he, that it's often used as an adjunct therapy. So it's not generally ever used first line. And that's one of the
it's
problems
interesting.
with
Yeah.
collecting the data. So
Yeah.
they'll use it in something like psoriasis, but at
Yes,
the
yes,
same
yes.
time, they'll also be using quite a lot of other
Vitamin D
things.
analogues and
Yeah, and
steroids
what
and
he would
yeah.
say is it's part of a toolbox. And actually, I suspect also what I came to the conclusion of is that light therapy probably makes people feel better.
Mm,
Just the warmth of light and the lifting of your mood could
mm,
probably influence your psoriasis as much as any cellular
yeah.
activity.
And I know quite a lot of people who have psoriasis, and I interestingly, and a lot of their advice that they've been given over a number of years is to spend more time outside, and
Yes,
even spending a lot of time outside and having lots of light, even using that in combination with the vitamin
yes,
D analogues, it doesn't
exactly.
cure it.
It
It's not
manages it.
actually,
Yeah,
it may manage it
yeah.
to a certain extent, but it's never ever curative. So I think it can be something that makes you feel better, but it's not something that's going to be a cure.
And that's sort of what the dermatologist is saying. Don't discount light therapy. It's really useful,
Yeah.
but it's generally an adjunct, not a first line. But the wellness industry has harnessed this bit of science. Nothing wrong with
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
But they've found a commercial way of selling you something that does have evidence.
Mm.
But the fact is, evaluating how much evidence it has potentially for you and at what sort of strength is almost impossible, let me tell you.
Yeah. You see, and that's the thing that I also have a thing about, right? Is when we're talking about these red light masks that are all in different
Yes.
costs, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And who's regulating them? How do we
No,
know that they're not
nobody.
doing us harm? How do we
Nobody.
know how much they're penetrating? Does everybody's skin have a different level of penetration from this red light
Yeah.
mask?
There's no
Potentially.
I haven't seen any reference to that, and I'd really like to look. So before we start our podcast next week, let's just answer that question about skin color,
Mm.
melanin levels, and the potential for penetration, because
Yeah.
that
What
will
if you've got
be
loads of freckles?
yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Mm.
my skin has its sort of shield that's developed over years of growing up in a very hot country.
Country.
So
Yeah.
would that be then different for me? I think that's a really interesting
Mm.
question, and I've not in all the little bit of research I've done, I have found no
Mm.
reference to it.
Okay. All right. So
So
we've
there's
gone through all of
evidence
that.
around light,
There's evidence around
and I
light. It's
mean we
used
need
in,
light for general health, don't
of
we?
course you do. Of
I
course
mean
you do.
think about circadian rhythm.
Well, of course. I mean, that's the whole point, isn't it? You get up in the morning when the light comes, and then you go
Yeah,
to bed
yeah.
and when we
So
didn't use clocks,
yeah,
we were much more in tune with our circadian rhythms. When you think about this country, when
yeah,
people they got up earlier in the summer to go
yes.
out to the fields, and then
Yeah,
they
yeah,
went
and
to
they
bed
went to
earlier.
bed later. Potentially, you could just pop a mask on, presumably in the morning, not bother with the going outside. I don't know. I mean, the other reference I've seen is that watching sunrises and sunsets is quite as good. So,
There
so,
you go. So
and
you
that
really do just need
sounds.
to go back
I
outside.
also think it's also much better for your soul than sitting with a Darth Vader mask on. But
Well,
that's
of
me.
course it is.
That's
I mean,
me.
also,
Okay.
just as a matter of like, just a point of reference,
Yeah.
I think if I was a child and I walked in to the living room in the middle of the night, as children are wont to do after you've put them to bed, they often come downstairs because they are basically
What,
human
you're going to
boomerangs.
tell me they get night
I
terrors from
would.
their parents in masks?
I would. I'd find that terrifying.
No, in the future it'll become normal technology. People just have them
Mm,
hanging on the arms of the couches. Who
madness.
knows?
Madness, madness.
Do you know
Okay,
how this
right.
all started, by the way? The data collection.
Yes, I would like to know. Yes, please.
Well, interestingly, that's really interesting. This is the most interesting bit I found is that NASA started using light
NASA started
therapy
it.
to help plants grow in space because
Of
light's
course.
different in space, right?
Yeah,
And light's very necessary for photosynthesis, as you
of
know.
course.
So there was then also potential to use it for astronauts
For
to
wounds.
promote healing, cell repair, and also to do with, general health like bones, so
Yeah,
vitamin D
okay.
production. So you can see if you're in a spacecraft or you were underwater in, you
A
know,
submarine.
exactly, that this potentially, you could have a booth. This would
So
potentially be very useful.
now I understand that, and that appeals to
Yeah.
what I would do use it for. And I
Yeah.
think great idea. Absolutely. Um, okay. I like that one.
Okay, you like that one. I thought you'd like that one.
Thank you.
And then the dermatologist was saying that I listened to, there are lots of studies, but they're mostly clinical setting studies rather than face mask commercial studies,
Yes, because
by the way.
how do you then evaluate like the
Yes, and that's the problem. And as he said, you can't do a half face mask one, or
mm,
it hasn't been done. So we're talking about evidence in clinical settings then being somehow used as evidence for face masks on the
at
couch in
home, which is
particular.
totally
And the other
different.
thing is basically it's really complicated to evaluate the thing about how many lumens you get in. And actually lumens are light,
Yeah.
and actually and you don't want light, you want wavelength. So it's complicatedly
Mm,
different how you measure
yeah.
stuff, and the cheaper ones possibly have less wavelength.
Mm,
And really, there are more questions than there are answers out there. And do
knew
all
there
the
would be.
colors even work? Well, probably not.
Yeah.
And the devices you buy vary enormously on how much light they deliver. But
And how
people
long
are
are you
getting.
supposed to use them
Yes,
for?
how do you evaluate? People are getting very interested, is all I can tell you, because what I did see quoted was
Mm,
that in 2019 there were only 5,000 Google searches a month, and
yeah.
they're now 22,000 a month.
I bet it was on some reality TV thing and everybody's gone mad.
Yeah, whatever. It's definitely out there.
It's
So
increased in popularity. Okay. So back to another of my initial questions.
yes,
What about your eyes? Because
yes,
I
yes.
think, being somebody who's had a problem with their eyes in the past,
Yeah,
I
you'd
am
be
very
more.
concerned about
Yeah,
that.
I think ophthalmologists, opticians, whatever, are concerned about these, but they are all sold with eye masks
Yeah,
to
but
protect your eyes.
tanning
And
boots,
as
you're supposed
long
to put
as you
eye
use
masks on.
them as instructed, I think the concerns are pretty small.
Mm,
But the other thing is that you're only meant to use them for very short periods of time, like some of them
okay.
are 10 to 15.
Okay.
And we all know that human nature being what it is, that if
They'll use it
something
more.
does you good, you might do more of it to do you more good. So
Hmm.
there's potentially, potential for harm, but I think
Yeah.
actually it's pretty small from what I hear.
Okay. And
There
is
are
there a
some
thing?
people who shouldn't use them,
Yes.
and you would know, I think.
So I was wondering about people who are on medication that
Of
make you
course,
photosensitive.
yes,
So I used to have
yeah,
a patient actually who
yeah,
was on a cocktail of medication that made her so sensitive to the sun that she used to basically have to wear sunblock and long clothes
yes,
in
of
the summer.
course,
And she'd
yes,
come in and bless her, she would be absolutely sweating because it was so hot, but she couldn't risk
yeah,
allowing a single part of her
yes,
skin to
of
be in
course.
the sun.
Now, but of course, those are not people who should definitely not go near these devices.
Yeah.
And also, those are people who have a history of skin conditions like skin cancer and even
Mhm.
eye diseases. I mean, all of that would be stated, I think,
Yeah.
as potential harm. But
Okay.
the other interesting thing I saw was that dermatologists are treating some mild skin cancers with light therapy to
Okay.
do with healing.
Yeah.
And potentially, it's great for helping to heal wounds that are difficult to heal.
Yeah.
So you can imagine like diabetic skin ulcers and things. So there's some exciting stuff of this, actually, I think.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay. So there might be some real clinical benefits to
Yes.
using this
Yes.
therapy, but for Joe Blogs in the
Yeah,
general
on that
public,
couch. Yeah.
what do we think?
Right. The strength of light in the devices is quoted in is sometimes quoted is not usually quoted in lumens because this is
Mm.
only the visible light. So the wavelength, as we said, and then they talk about nanometers and irradiance measured in milliwatts per square centimeter.
Do you
Let
actually
me
need a PhD in
Yes,
physics to
let me
understand
tell
this?
you, I couldn't work it out. So
Yeah.
you'll find light specifications are almost impossible really to read or work out the relative strength. But your red light wavelength masks are between 630 and 750 nm. And there are lots of small studies.
Mm.
1 in 10 show improvements. I don't think that sounded great, actually, 1 in 10. And as I say, they're not mostly done on masks or split face masks. We've talked about the safety concerns, and there definitely are some, but they're
Yeah.
relatively safe. But interestingly, this is not mentioned by NICE.
No, funny that, isn't it? So
And the
presumably they just don't
dermatologist,
have.
I listened to said, well, that's because we just basically don't have the strength of evidence. And
Mm.
NICE likes good strength of evidence.
Well, of course they do. That's the whole point, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So
don't
maybe I'm.
discount this for future use. I do think this is not going away.
Mm.
The wellness industry has got on the sort of bandwagon
But
early.
would you say perhaps if you're going to use one, buy a more expensive one that comes from a reputable
Yes.
company and don't
Yes,
buy the cheap of
probably.
the cheap.
And
Make
even
sure you
better.
protect your eyes.
Yeah,
Don't use it for longer than recommended, and
exactly.
definitely don't use it if you've got skin conditions or eye conditions that you know about that are contraindicated.
That's in a nutshell. And
Yeah.
even better, I suspect you'll be able to go to a place like the sunbed thing
Yeah.
where you can use very good equipment that you could not afford to buy at home.
Yeah, so it's kind of better if you really want to use it for the
Yes.
best
Yes,
possible results, then
exactly.
it's like a treatment
There'll be
course.
Exactly, there'll be clinics offering this. I haven't looked them up, but there will be clinics
Mm.
offering, and they will use the sort of booth idea or the sunbed idea, and you'll get better penetration. Also, with the face masks, we're talking about the face, aren't we? We're not talking about the rest of the body. So
Yeah.
there are other indications.
Yeah.
And it strikes me that for most people, potentially there is some use in the future
Okay.
for red light therapy or light therapy. So, and the sort of the idea that it makes you feel better, I like that. And the fact is, you can go outside and get it. I mean, it's free, isn't it?
It's
Really?
free.
Yeah, you can go for a walk. You can go for a walk in the
You
sunlight and
could
get
go
exercise as well.
for a
I'm sort of
walk. You
thinking,
could be outside in nature and hear the sounds of the
yeah,
beautiful birds and the
yes,
wind and the waves. You could appreciate the beautiful creation that's all around us, the leaves, the flowers, the sunlight. You
yeah.
could have, a
You could use
talk
your
with a friend.
muscles.
You could use your muscles. You could build your bone density,
Yeah,
and you could
you could
also improve
swim.
the elasticity of your skin at the same time. Look at
You
that.
could play tennis, you could swim. So I won't be buying a red light mask anytime soon, but I wouldn't discount this for the future because I suspect there's lots of people around and we know about them who love a shortcut, don't they? So if
Oh,
you
I'm
said,
yeah,
would you
human
like the
nature.
same effect for 10 minutes on the couch with this mask, or do you want to play 2 sets of tennis? You can see it's just so easy, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
We're so
Bless you.
cynical, aren't we? I won't be buying one, no.
Okay, fair enough. Me either. But thanks for talking about it because I think it was worth having a look at. But I think
Yeah,
perhaps
yeah.
we'll leave it to the consultant dermatologists.
I'm
Perhaps.
more interested in it now than I was to begin with.
Mm.
And I did remember about light therapy, and I mean, it is a thing. But
Oh, it
there it,
absolutely is a thing.
yeah,
Interestingly, though, also just a little note. So I used to work in obviously hospital pharmacy, which you know,
yeah,
and we used to dispense medication for people who were going to have light therapy for their psoriasis,
yes.
and they used to have to take medication before to make their skin more able
Was
to
that to build the
absorb the light.
melanin in the skin? I wonder. Yeah,
So
interesting.
there
Yeah.
was, these people are not getting the benefit of what we're giving to these people with psoriasis, which is you have to have this treatment before you have the light
Yes, and
therapy.
that's sort of what the dermatologist was saying, that for some people, as an adjunct, it was very useful, but it's
Mm,
always been an adjunct. It's never
mm.
been first line. And then it's very difficult to evaluate the exact benefits.
Yeah. See?
Yeah,
Anywho.
interesting area. And I mean, I won't be sitting on the couch with a welding mask on anytime soon. That will cost me, I don't know, could
True.
cost me £1,000, could cost, anyway. I'd
Golly.
probably buy it on Amazon for not very much, and then it would do absolutely nothing. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I'd be libeled. Who
I would just
knows?
not buy it at all, Marianne. Save your dosh. Buy a
No,
nice
no, I don't even really go with the eye cream. I think we should discuss that, yeah.
my eye cream. It's because I smile so much. I've got crow's feet around
Oh,
my eyes.
yes. I think I probably did use eye cream at one stage when I thought potentially I'd want to
Mm,
look, better.
mm,
But now I've come to terms with aging, I don't bother. In fact, I did ask my kids on
mm,
WhatsApp the other day, what's the difference between face cream and body cream? Because it's
mm.
much cheaper to buy body cream, it's same moisturizer. And my son said, Mum, it's called marketing. And I thought, all these years I've bought expensive face cream.
It's like body cream and hand cream, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
that.
Yeah.
And Vaseline's, I mean, Vaseline's pretty good. Anyway,
Right.
yeah. We very easily marketed to,
Aren't we?
aren't
Except for
we?
you and me who have that
Yeah,
cynical bone.
although you
Although,
never
no, I've
completely,
definitely been done. I've been
yeah,
done.
you're never completely not open to this stuff because
Yeah.
we all potentially have Achilles heels.
Right. See you next
Right.
time.
Yes, but let's look up the skin color, melanin sort of,
Yes. Yeah,
because I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that'd be an interesting question. We'll start with that next week.
Cool. See you
See you
next time.
soon. Bye
Bye.
for now.